of South Florida. He has deep ties to this community and the university. Limayem was the dean of the USF Mooma College of Business for 10 years, and he takes on this role after a stint leading the University of North Florida. I'm Matthew Petty, and today on Florida Matters Live and Local, I'll sit down with President Limayem to talk about his goals for USF. We'll also talk about the challenges ahead, including navigating the tricky politics around higher education. Also this hour, do you think Tampa Bay is growing too big, too fast? We'll talk about the growth in population and wages and the cost of living. And if you want to weigh in, you can join the conversation by calling 813-755-6562 or emailing FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. All this and your calls and emails coming up after these headlines.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. President Trump declares a turnaround for the ages in his State of the Union address last night.
Members of Congress and my fellow Americans, our nation is back, bigger, better, richer, and stronger than ever before.
President Trump took a victory lap as he delivered a record-long speech to a joint session of Congress and the country in a major televised event. NPR's Domenico Montanaro has more on the president's speech.
In his first official State of the Union address of his second term, President Trump hit a lot of familiar points: immigration and crime, with, of course, some typical Trump showmanship thrown in. The gold medal-winning Olympic men's hockey team was there. So were veterans who were decorated with medals of honor. But Trump largely ignored the warts in the economy, the very issue most voters are saying is their top concern, and it's what's landed Trump and the Republican Party in a precarious position in this midterm election year. And with views largely baked in on this president, Trump may have missed an opportunity to show he feels voters' pain. After all, there aren't that many chances for a president to talk to the nation in prime time. Domenico Montanaro, NPR News, Washington.
NPR's Scott Horsley homes in on one key message from the president, a new retirement plan.
He talked about how half of all working Americans don't have a retirement plan right now where their bosses can contribute to match what they put in. So he says he wants to come up with a new type of plan.
To remedy this gross disparity, I'm announcing that next year my administration will give these often forgotten American workers access to the same type of retirement plan offered to every federal worker. We will match your contribution with up to $1,000 each year.
Now, of course, that would take help from Congress, and he didn't talk about where the money would come from.
That's NPR's Scott Horsley reporting. In other news, a prominent scientist at Columbia University has resigned as co-director of the Neuroscience Institute after his association with Jeffrey Epstein was revealed. Richard Axel called his friendship with Epstein a, quote, serious error in judgment. Here's NPR's Katie Riddle.
Richard Axel is not implicated in any legal wrongdoing. The files show the two men spent time socializing together. Axel appeared to be a regular guest at Epstein's home. In a statement, Axel called Epstein's behavior appalling and wrote, quote, I apologize for compromising the trust of my friends, students, and colleagues, unquote. Axel was awarded the Nobel Prize in 2004 for his work on the olfactory system. In addition to resigning as co-director of the Neuroscience Institute, Axel said he would resign as an investigator at the Howard Hughes Medical Institute. He will remain a professor at Columbia University, where he has been teaching for more than 5 decades. Katie Riddle, NPR News.
The Dow is up 246 points. This is NPR News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive, with small business insurance for protecting a variety of business types with multiple coverage options, designed to fit business owners' needs. More about small business insurance is at progressivecommercial.com.
You're listening to WUSF 89.7. I'm Craig Kopp. A bill that would allow parents to opt their kids out of vaccines based on personal beliefs advanced in a Senate committee on Tuesday. Several doctors spoke against it during public comment, saying it will decrease the number of children vaccinated just as the state faces a measles outbreak. Carlos Guillermo Smith was among the senators who voted no.
Look, it doesn't take a medical degree to understand that this bill is very dangerous.
Senator Danny Burgess said he was somewhat in the middle on the issue and voted for it, citing a loss of trust in the healthcare system.
So I remain unwavering in my support of parental choice and informed consent, and conscientious objection, and for those reasons, I'll support this legislation today.
The so-called medical freedom bill does not end mandates for vaccines, but it gives parents the option to say no based on personal beliefs, not just religious or medical reasons. A similar bill in the House has not moved forward. Miami Beach broke up with spring break 2 years ago after a string of deadly shootings. The city started a number of efforts to bring order following that chaos. At a press conference Tuesday, City Manager Eric Carpenter said the crackdown is still in effect ahead of this year's break.
Our police and enforcement presence remains unchanged, and we are still very much broken up with spring break with no interest in ever getting back together.
Starting next week, parking at garages on South Beach will cost between $40 and $100. Towing fees will double for non-residents, and police checkpoints will be posted along beach entrances. License plate readers will also be stationed on causeways entering the city. Here's Miami Beach Mayor Stephen Minor.
We're serious about law and order, but we're also a city that is serious about welcoming everyone to come here, enjoy our city, and for our businesses to thrive.
The city is hoping to attract visitors by holding health and wellness events throughout spring break. I'm Craig Kopp, WUSF 89.7 News.
Want to know what's happening here in the Capitol? I'm Douglas Soul, covering the state government for Your Florida. Visit WUSF.org/YourFlorida.
WUSF depends on contributions from people like you. And Seitenbacher, with a new web shop. Healthy muesli, cold-pressed oils, and vegetable broth mix delivered to your door from right here in Tampa Bay. Details at Seitenbacher.com. Seitenbacher. Seitenbacher.
This is Florida Matters live and local, sponsored by Badawi Law, and we're broadcasting from the Doctors Lorraine Rubis and Neil Frankel studio at WSF in Tampa. I'm Matthew Petty. Moez Limayem is the 9th president of the University of South Florida. He is no stranger to USF. He was the dean of the Mooma College of Business at USF for 10 years, and in 2022 he left Tampa to become the president of the University of North Florida up in Jacksonville. A lot's happened in the 3 years plus since Limayem was here last in the Tampa Bay area. USF joined the Association of American Universities. It's a prestigious group of research institutions in America and Canada. And the university is investing heavily in its sports program, creating a CEO of athletics position and building a brand new football stadium on campus. But he arrives facing some challenges too. For example, state leaders want public universities to cut costs and slash diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. President Limayem, thank you so much for being with me.
Thank you for having me.
So your first day as president was just last week, and you said you had hit the ground listening to students, faculty, and staff at all three campuses. What have you heard from folks in the first few days here?
I've heard a lot of excitement, a lot of hopes for the future, a lot of conviction that this is an incredible university that has done so much for students, faculty, staff, for the community. And also people are hungry to make it even better. And that's why I'm here. That's why I'm excited and energized.
Do people sort of know who you are? Or like, I mean, obviously you're with an entourage, right? But just sort of wander around the campus. Are they sort of like, oh, President Limayem, or do you have to introduce yourself?
Yes, and you know, that's one of the things I love about coming back home is that I have so many friends here, but I'm also eager to make new friends. Mm-hmm. So many students, probably they did not know me, but let me tell you, I'm not shy. I want to talk to them. I shake hands and talk to them about the things they like about USF, and always finish, what is the one thing we can do better, and already having some great ideas.
Yeah. We're going to talk a little more about this later, but just sort of thinking back to when you started in your academic career, how much of that was teaching and how much was research?
Yeah, and you know, almost 34 years of academic career, academic leadership, and I really pride myself to have gone through all the ranks. I'm an academic at heart. I'm a scholar. I'm an educator. I'm a son of an educator.
Yeah.
Started with a teaching assistant to assistant professors, associate professor, department chair, full professor, associate dean, and president, and so. I think a lot of things have changed, but I'm really happy to always see that the importance of education has not changed.
Yeah.
It's still very important. It's the mission of changing lives, and there is nothing else I'd rather be doing than helping people change their lives and helping them get that incredible degree to be good to their families, to their communities, and be great leaders for tomorrow.
Do you miss teaching, like actually being in front of a class?
Yeah, I really do, and that's why I never miss an opportunity to go and do guest lectures and talk to students, and that's my therapy. It's just so rewarding, and I do miss it, but I try to make it up through guest lecturing and talking in different platforms to our wonderful students.
So let's talk about money for a moment. When you were Dean of the Mooma College of Business, you raised more than $126 million in private donations. Today, there are some challenges, right? Like federal funding for colleges and universities is under threat. One analysis last year estimated hundreds of universities in the United States could lose up to $8.2 billion in grants. So how important are private funds, private grants and donations going to be going forward for USF?
Yeah, and thank you. And I really have to also make clear that there is no one dean or one person that is capable of raising that much money. It's a team effort. It's a team sport. Fundraising is really a team sport. What is really important is that donors and philanthropists, they invest in a very compelling, audacious, exciting vision. And that's why we have been very successful. And that's the one thing that we're going to work really hard on here with my team is to develop that really compelling vision. You mentioned AAU. That is an incredible achievement. That is something that I remember when I joined USF in 2012. We started dreaming of AAU. People mocked us. They laughed at us. We're here. Now, what is next? And that's what is the journey that we're going to start. I am really proud of our team here, but also very proud and grateful for all the donors and friends of USF who always invested in these great institutions. And my commitment to all of them is that we're going to work really hard so that they see the best return on investment, so that USF will remain the destination of choice for them to invest their money.
Let's talk about research. So, this is one area that has been affected by federal cuts, especially. What are your goals for USF as a research institute?
Yeah, I mean, research is really important. And then again, USF prides itself to have probably one of the best faculty doing incredible research that actually helping us face and alleviate and address many challenges for our region, state, country, and in many instances, the world. I mean, the more you read about what the innovation, the research, the patent that are actually being done right here on our campus is just incredible. So research is very important. And a lot of people think that it's either or, research or student success. I don't think that is true. And I really believe that USF is among many university, if any, that actually walks on both legs. Research, while at the same time really working very hard and being a national global leader in student success. It is true that the funding of research is not as it used to be. It's a fact from federal, from state. So that's why we have to think a little bit out of the box, forge these incredible partnerships with businesses, with other organizations, so that we continue our ascension in research and actually be a model on how we forge these win-win partnerships.
Right, so there's some maybe untested ground out there to look at. If you're just joining us on Florida Matters Live and Local, we're talking with Moez Limayem. He's the president of the University of South Florida in his second week on the job at this point in time. So, President Limayem, one of the biggest issues USF is facing right now is a state proposal to transfer the USF Sarasota Manatee campus to neighboring New College. Now, That campus serves 2,000 students, and just for full disclosure, WUSF has studios at USF Tampa and USF Sarasota Manatee. It is editorially independent, though, and our news stories are not reviewed by university leaders, including you, prior to air. What impact would losing the campus have on your vision for USF?
As you mentioned, this is I just celebrated my first week on the job yesterday. So my job now, and as I committed, is to really hit the ground listening. And if you see at my first week, I think the second day, I went to our campus in Sarasota Manatee.
Mm-hmm.
I met with the leadership there. I met with the leadership of faculty, leadership of staff, leadership of students to really understand what's going on. At the same time, I'm on a daily basis in contact with our board leadership, with our government relations, to really understand where are we in that process. And one thing for sure, and I think USF has been very clear about this, that this is a legislative process. This is we don't have control over the outcomes. Of course, we're going to do everything we can, and this is what I committed to, is do everything we can to look for the interest of our faculty, staff, and students if this is going to happen. So this is one of the things. We also committed to transparency. We will keep our all our faculty, staff, students, and communities informed every time there is.
How will you do that? Like, what's as part of that transparency plan? Like, how are you going to keep people informed?
Communication. We communicate. Every time there is new development, we're going to be very clear. This is what is happening, and this is how we're going to address any decision is being made. And in the meantime, we really are doing everything we can to look at different possible outcomes, and if the transfer is to happen, to still have the resources so that we can take care of our students, faculty, and staff.
We've got about 30 seconds before we go to a break, but real quick, I mean, there is part of the plan that takes $22 million from USF's proposed budget. The head of the Board of Trustees is speaking out against it. Have you thought about this aspect of the plan?
Absolutely. And I think we all don't like that plan, and the decision is not made yet. That's one part of the legislative process, and that's why we're working with all parties involved to make sure that we will have the resources to take good care of our faculty, staff, and students. So it's not done yet.
Even though it's kind of out of your hands in some regards, I mean, you do have a pretty significant kind of foot on the levers of power there, right?
Anybody who understands the legislative process, we have to respect that process. And of course, we're doing everything we can to make sure that we do have the resources so that we can take care of our faculty, staff, and students. That's it's a fact. We're working really hard on that. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Stay with us, President Limayem. We're talking with Moez Limayem, the president of the University of South Florida. Much more to discuss when we come back on Florida Matters Live and Local.
Residents across the greater Tampa Bay region are adapting their homes to flooding.
We're actually doing tile that looks like wood. This way when it floods, we don't need to touch it. We'll still have to do with the drywall.
I'm Jessica Mazzaros, climate reporter for WUSF. From emergency info to storm recovery, we've got you covered every hurricane season and beyond.
FSU Oslo Conservatory presents Exit, Pursued by a Bear. After years of abuse, Nan has finally had enough of her husband Kyle and crafts an insane plan with her two best friends. Show's running now through March 8th. Tickets at oslorep.org.
The mornings are cooler. The license plates are from everywhere. It must be winter in Florida. If you're ready to part with a car, motorcycle, or even boat, donating it to WUSF supports trusted local news and may count as a tax deduction. Call 866-WUSF-CAR or visit WUSF.org.
Welcome back to Florida Matters Live and Local. If you're just joining us, we're talking with Moez Limayem. He is the 9th president of the University of South Florida. Just started his second week on the job, and we're very glad to be sitting down and talking about some of the issues with him. So, President Limayem, I want to talk about academic freedom. Now, it's something that faculty at all Florida universities are a bit concerned about, I think it would be fair to say. You surely dealt with some of that in your time in Jacksonville. And from some of the reporting that we've done at WUSF, there has been a drop in faculty morale at USF since restrictions were placed on topics like race and identity, diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. What do you say to faculty who are worried about what they can and can't teach, and what can you do to reassure them?
Yeah, thank you. Again, here, being a true academic and have done academia for 34 years, I came to realize how important it is for a university to be a safe place, a marketplace for ideas of different backgrounds. So that's really important for me personally. Two things also we have to make sure that everybody understands. We're a public university here. We're a state university, and we have no other option but to comply with the law. Not complying with the law is not an option for us. There are different ways that people can change the law. Not complying with them is not an option. This being said, I also commit to all our faculty, staff, and students to, within the framework of the law, to provide that safe place for people to express their opinion, their beliefs. But we also have to realize that freedom of speech comes with responsibility, right? So yes, I am free to express myself, but also I have to respect others when they express themselves, even though I don't think exactly the same way. And this is just yesterday, someone asked me, a colleague asked me, said, what do you want your legacy to be? And I said, I'm really been thinking a lot about these questions, and I have two dreams, if you want. The one dream for USF to be that incredible model for Metropolitan AAU University. My personal dream is that USF becomes the model for true civil discourse, where we are the best in the world in teaching, training our students for generations to come on civility, on how to listen to understand, not listen to attack, and in many instances we've seen listen to even kill. That's what really something that is very important for me. We're going to work a lot on this. So that
what does that mean practically? Like, are you thinking about bringing in new courses?
Yes, exactly. We really are thinking about certificates, moving this in different programs. And the best case scenario is that you do not graduate from USF without a very significant shot in the arm of civil discourse and civility.
But doesn't civics and civility mean different things to different people? Like, it seems to me there are...
No, this is not civic. This is really civil discourse and civility.
Sure.
Not civic is different, and of course it's really important. But what we're talking about it here is really the civil discourse, is the ability and the skills to disagree respectfully. That's what it really is, because let's say we're debating of a very controversial issues and we have completely opposite point of view. If I listen to you and try to understand, I am a better person at the end, even if at the end we don't disagree. Most people, if not all, and if you have any doubt, just turn on the TV. You see, even the news, you turn on the news and you see people speaking over each other. You see people fighting, people attacking each other. That's where I really want USF to be different. And I think we can. I really do believe we can.
In the context of, this academic setting, and you've had more than 3 decades getting a very close-up look at it, how it works, not just here, but also other countries. Like, do you think is there something missing from civil discourse now that was there before?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think we've never, university in general, never paid really attention to this. And as a result, you see, our country is divided. The world is divided. You see wars. You see conflict everywhere. And I'm not saying that we're going to solve all problems.
You're not going to solve world peace.
No, probably. But we're gonna help make our graduates better. So hopefully our community better, and that will catch on. I think what it really means is that when you graduate from USF, you know how to listen. You know how to disagree professionally, how to respectfully. And I think as simple as it sounds, it's not that simple, because I don't think anybody has done it well. I think USF, we can and we will.
When you think about kind of civil discourse and expression, freedom of expression on campus, what about when it comes to student protests? Like in 2024, at USF, there was some pro-Palestinian demonstrations on campus. Students ended up getting tear gassed by police. 10 people were arrested. When you sort of reflect on something like that, how do you think you would approach it as president if a similar situation were to arise?
Yeah, and again, please understand that I was not here when that happened.
Sure,
and all I know is that it's an ongoing investigation and matter. So I think it's extremely inappropriate for me to comment on that. But again, it's all about all of us here at USF making sure that we understand how the freedom of speech within the framework of the law. We also want to make sure that we understand how we disagree respectfully, professionally with others. I think if we really educate all of us on freedom of speech that comes with responsibilities, that we educate on what is allowed by the law, what is not allowed by the law, I don't think we're going to hopefully reach these situations like this. And again, I'm saying this because I don't know all the aspect of what happened here.
Sure.
And even if I knew, I cannot comment about it. But my commitment is to provide that safe place to educate people on civil discourse, and also to make sure that everybody knows the rules, the regulations, and the laws. And as long as they do exercise their rights, I will be their best advocate. But we cannot allow for a chaos in the universities, because if you do, then we're no longer an educational institutions where people can come and feel free to express themselves in a safe environment.
Moez Limayem, University of South Florida president. Do stay with us. A little more to discuss in just a moment when Florida Matters Live and Local continues.
This week on the Zest podcast, learn how to turn mealtime into self-care with tips from Jarrell Guy. Her new cookbook is We Fancy, simple recipes to make the everyday special. New episodes of the Zest are released on Thursdays. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Support for WUSF comes from listeners like you and from Badawi Law, offering legal services in personal injury, immigration, and auto accidents, with offices in Tampa, Florida. Office information and practice details at BadawiLaw.com, or learn more on Instagram at Badawi Law. Seacoast Bank, helping Floridians prosper for 100 years. Seacoast offers the personal and business banking solutions clients need with the personalized service they deserve. More at seacoastbank.com/100 years. Member FDIC.
This is WUSF 89.7. Looking for something to do? Visit the community events calendar at WUSF.org.
Welcome back to Florida Matters Live and Local. I'm Matthew Petty. Last week, Moez Limayem started in his role as the 9th president of the University of South Florida. It is a homecoming. 3 years ago, Limayem was the dean of Mooma College of Business. President Limayem, let's talk about you for a moment. So you grew up in Tunisia, came to the United States as a graduate student at the University of Minnesota. What were your first impressions of the U.S.?
You know, it's really interesting. The only thing I knew about the U.S. what I was watching in movies and TVs.
What were you watching?
Different action movies, everything, and really English was at best fourth language.
So you got 3 other languages ahead of English. Wow.
Yeah.
So what,
French, a little bit of English, and I was Tunisian, also Arabic. So when I landed, I had to be in class with native English speakers for a graduate school. It was tough.
Yeah,
it really was tough. I remember very well. The professor will, tell a joke and everybody will be laughing, and I have no idea. I just laugh so that I don't look idiots. And
that is the best way to a language, right? Trying to get your head around the jokes.
Absolutely. And that's so. It was exciting, scary, challenging, and very cold.
Right, because you would have been studying in fall in Minnesota.
Correct.
And did you come straight from Tunisia? You've been somewhere else?
No, directly from Tunisia. First time in the U.S. And honestly, I was not well prepared clothes-wise. And I remember when the winter hit, honestly, in many instances, I asked myself, why am I here?
Yeah.
And this, I tell the students and say, you're going to face some really difficult challenges, and nothing good comes out of the comfort zone. And if I did not go out of my comfort zone, I would be still in Tunisia now, which is good, but would be a very different career. And I won't be the 9th president of just an incredible institutions. And this is here also what I tell our students is, let's not take our country for granted. I don't really think there is any other country in the world where a kid who grew up almost in the middle of nowhere in Africa to very, very average, if not below average financial upbringing, to work really hard and make it to be the president of an incredible institutions like USF. This does not happen in other countries. If I can do it, our amazing students can do it. All they have to do is really believe in themselves, work hard, and be very faithful to integrity and their values, and magic will happen.
Yeah.
It really has happened for me, and I'm living a dream.
So you became an American citizen in 2015?
2015, Valentine's Day.
Wow.
Yes.
How did that feel?
It was probably one of the happiest days in our lives, one of the most transformational. It brought so much meaning to us. This country has done so much for me and my family, and to finally become a citizen that and actually can exercise our right for democracy and vote. I don't even think I can find the right word to describe the pride, the excitement, but also the sense of responsibility that comes with being a citizen. And I remember very well, we had to take a civic quiz. And for all our students that you're listening, yes, I get full grade, 10 out of 10.
and I think I read your wife's an educator too. She's in academia and Tunisian as well.
Absolutely.
And she became a citizen the same time as you?
Absolutely, same time. And she is the smart one in the family. She has a doctoral degree, PhD in microbiology, nanotechnology. She is an inventor, and she's doing an incredible research that actually try to address the antibiotic resistance problem.
Wow. That is some Valentine's Day, though. That's a pretty unique experience.
Yes, and when we became citizen, our son became citizen because he was less than 18, but our daughter was born here, was born in Arkansas, Sarah, and she keeps reminding us that she's the only one in the family who can be the president of the U.S.
Yes, well, I know how that feels. I
Yeah.
share that experience as well. So you've spent a good chunk of your life in Tampa, right? So
Correct.
Does this place feel like home for you?
Oh, my God. A lot of people don't know, but Tampa, this is the city where we lived the longest, where I lived the longest since birth.
Mm.
This is it. This is home.
Wow.
This is the place where our kids grew up. I was talking to some colleagues and friends. It's like, I go around campus and every square foot, I've been there. I had some memories in it. And it just undescribable feeling of joy and excitement, but also sense of responsibility.
Mm-hmm. I want to bring it back to the kind of geopolitics of education right now, if I could. Now, international college students across the country have faced some pressure from federal and state lawmakers. About 500 fewer international students are enrolled at USF now compared to a year ago. That's for a range of reasons, like there's some federal visa restrictions, there's some state rules restricting enrollment for people from China and other countries of concern. How do you balance these pressures with USF's reputation as a place with a robust international makeup?
Yeah, no, it's really good. And, I'm sure many of our listeners know, I was an international student.
Mm-hmm.
I was an international student. So I fully understand, grasp, appreciate the stress, the difficulties, and the challenges that any international students go through. So I am, I think, well positioned to do everything I can to help our existing students here and to provide them with the resources they need so that they can have the best possible experience right here at this great university.
Have you heard from some of those international students?
I have some, and I will be meeting them specifically as a group of international students to just really hear the concerns, because that's really important for us. And one of the things that attracts me the most about USF is, we say, it doesn't really matter where you come from. You will find somebody like you here at USF. So, and the secret of success is very simple: is that we work really hard to provide the necessary resources for everyone to be successful, and we're going to continue doing that.
Yeah, I mean, you're in a prime example. As you said, you've come through as an international
Absolutely.
student in your time yourself. You sort of understand intimately the value of this to colleges
Absolutely.
and universities. But I'm wondering, when you think about some of the restrictions or proposed restrictions that are coming in, does it feel like Florida is kind of closing the door to foreign students with these policies, or even foreign employees with the restriction on H-1B visas?
Yeah, again, we go back to the same really situation. We are public institutions, we're a state university, and we're going to do everything we can within the framework of the law.
Mm-hmm.
But also, there are many other possibilities and countries where we can go and make sure we recruit the brightest and ablest students. So we're gonna do everything we can. One of the things that I will be working on is a well-articulated global strategy for USF. I think that's really important for us as an institution to know, where do we go from here internationally? What are, which countries we should, or areas of the world where we really want to go for the good of our stakeholders, for the good of our university, where we forge partnerships, where we go look for students. So that's something that will be relying on many of our friends who have extensive global experience to help us through that exercise to really articulate a great, compelling, exciting global strategy for our great university.
And I imagine that applies to staff and faculty too?
Absolutely. Faculty, staff, students, partners.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. If I could change gears for a moment, let's talk about sports. So USF, as you probably know, had a pretty great football season last year. Granted, the team lost their coach, but a new football stadium is under construction. In fact, not too far from here, you can sort of hear the pile drivers and cranes outside our studio. We've been hearing that for months. Do you like the changes you see in the athletics program, and How important is that program for the university beyond wins and losses?
Oh, absolutely. I am in full support of our athletic programs. My colleagues here and in my prior institutions know that I make decisions based on facts, based on data. So I did a very interesting study in my prior institutions, and the study was really simple. For every student who attended any athletic events, we took swipe of their cards, and then we correlated the number and the extent of their engagement with athletics with student success outcomes, their retention, graduation on time, jobs, salaries, and the results are just incredible. I really believe the stadium on campus will be transformational for the experience, to help us with student success, to help bring our alums back, to also help donors also engage with us more, and community leaders. But also, I think a lot of people don't understand, in addition to these all these checks and wins from investment in athletics, there is actually a financial return investment. With the next conference realignment, if we make it above the line to be among the Power Four, the amount of money that we get from the conference is multiplied many, many times of what we get here. So not just it makes sense for our stakeholders, for our community, and completely transform the university, it does have a financial return investment. So I'm in full support. And then also, a lot of people ask the questions, are we investing way too much for an AAU university in sports? It's like, it's a very simple example. Who are the finalists for football championship last season? 2 AAU university. One of them is right here, private Miami, right? So it's not either or. It actually, you can be a very successful AAU university that you take good care of your students, and also a hub of intellect and innovation and research, and at the same time very successful as the 2 finalists in the football championship last season.
Now, listening to student, staff, and faculty means being open to some of the small details for good or ill. Have people been talking to you about parking and sort of getting around campus?
Yeah, it's really interesting. Just this morning we were talking about this, and we are again. I make decisions based on facts. So we're going to do studies and understand how we're. Also, we have the intellect right here at USF for our amazing researcher in travel, distributions, supply chain, to help us really alleviate this. And I think the idea is to make it as smooth as possible. Would it be a little bit chaotic in a game days? You know what? That's okay.
Yeah,
that's okay. I think it's worth it. We're going to try to alleviate everything. Don't let it interfere with our classes and everything. But when people start complaining about parking, and usually they do in every single university, I tell them this is not unique here. And if you have any doubt, just go and visit other, even SUS universities, and you'll see that we're still very lucky compared to them here. And we'll do everything we can. With the stadium comes more parking. There's a very careful, thoughtful plan on how to direct traffic. But, I think it would be nice to see line of cars waiting for to park to see our team win, hopefully, championships.
Yeah, sometimes a traffic jam can be a good thing.
Yes.
We're going to have to leave the conversation there, but Moez Limayem, USF's new president, thank you so much for sitting down with me. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you, and I promise our listeners that I will be back every time I'm needed. So thank you.
Well, that's good to hear. You're listening to Florida Matters live and local. Do stay with us. Coming up, we're going to chat about how Tampa Bay is using AI and much more.
I'm Scott Tong. We'll get reaction to President Trump's State of the Union address. And this latest winter storm, the bitter cold, the lingering snow got you down? We'll talk winter blues and what to do. Next time, Here and Now.
Join us this afternoon from 1 to 3 on WUSF 89.7.
At WUSF, support comes from the people who listen, like you. Also, Brandon Business Machines. Brandon Business Machines is a locally owned and operated office equipment dealer and IT support company. They've been serving the Tampa Bay area for 44 years with copier and computer sales and service. Online at bbmusa.com. The Dunedin Fine Arts Center proudly announces the return of Trashy Treasures, Tampa Bay's biggest and most beloved art garage sale and party, happening Friday, March 6th and Saturday, March 7th. Tickets and details at dfac.org.
There's always something happening in Tampa Bay, and we've mapped it out just for you. Head to artsaccessfl.org/explore local for your guide to the area's creative scene. That's artsaccessfl.org/explore local.
Welcome back to Florida Matters Live and Local. I'm Matthew Petty. Tampa Bay is growing. That's according to this year's State of the Region report put out by the USF Mooma College of Business and the Tampa Bay Partnership. Population, wages, talent, and the use of artificial intelligence are all on the rise here. The cost of living outpaces people's income growth, meaning more than half of Tampa Bay families experience financial instability. WUSF's Gabriella Paul has been passing through the data. Gabriella, thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, if you've got some questions about Tampa Bay's growth, if you think this place is growing too big too fast, you can join the conversation. Give us a call, 813-755-6562, or email floridamatters@wusf.org. Gabriella, this week you had a story on an AI chatbot that gives people legal information for challenges like eviction. Now, on the surface, it's a story about artificial intelligence, but for you, it is more evidence of a growing population. So connect the dots for us.
Yeah, so as often happens with my beat of affordability, all these things are connected. And something that really jumped out to me when I was talking to Keziah Hill, that's the attorney and kind of person in charge of this chatbot, she said, you know, the Tampa Bay region and Tampa in particular, our courts have been overwhelmed by the amount of people here. So our population growth, as you know, if you live here, has really been on the rise. At the State of the Region, which you mentioned I had went to, the numbers on that are that we were the first in the nation or compared to other metros last year for population growth. Now we fell back into spot number 2 right behind Orlando, but still, you know, growth that's in Florida and still certainly something that we're feeling on all levels, including in the courts.
Okay, and now let's just take a listen to Keziah Hill. She is the Bay Area Legal Aid Services Legal Content Manager. She manages the chatbot, and she said their program can get too smart.
Because it can start to get too smart and kind of start getting flexible, like, you know, flexing its little brain muscle, like, well, they didn't say I could do this, but I kind of know how to do it. So, so no, that's why we have to constantly monitor and then continue tweaking the controls on it to make sure that it's not doing that.
All right, so a little bit of a sidebar perhaps, but I feel like this is one of those things that a lot of people are thinking about and maybe worrying about when it comes to AI and how it's used. What about those guardrails, and does her talking about the guardrails reassure you?
Yeah, I mean, and that's exactly why I put that question to her. I was like, I think a lot of people are going to hear AI and they want to know, you know, how is this working? Are there any fail safes? And Keziah said, you know, there is a back end group called Law Droid, and so they're the ones that Law Droid, and so they've created an AI chatbot that's also working in Atlanta Legal Aid Services and in North Carolina. So, but this is the first one in Florida. But there are these guardrails in the back wireframe where they can adjust the AI's attitude. They can also explicitly tell it not to hallucinate. That means basically making up new information that's not the input, which when you're talking about things like the law, that needs to be black and white, and it needs to be nuanced and in the context of what Florida's landlord-tenant law allows. So I think my takeaway from talking to Keziah was This is not something where they created a chatbot and they're going to let it, just keep on keeping on and learning like, other models like ChatGPT or Claude. This is something where the chatbot was specifically taught by legal staff. I think she joked the bot's like a 1L law student right now, but they're constantly having to monitor it to make sure it doesn't overstep or give misinformation, especially in this space where a lot of times renters are going to be using this to navigate really hard issues like evictions or securing recovering a security deposit, etc.
Yeah, I imagine though. I mean, it must be such a valuable tool for these law organizations which are overstretched, right? I mean, they have a limited number of staff. They're kind of slammed with work. So the idea of having this tool where they can sort of, delegate some of that, that heavy lifting work to a machine, it's got to be pretty tempting.
Yeah, I mean, for years I've talked to this legal aid service as well as others, and what we hear over and over again is there's just a demand of calls for help from renters that they can't keep up with. So the motivation for this bot in particular was to address that demand, but specifically reach renters who are having these legal challenges that they can't afford an attorney, but they also don't fall below those, income requirements to get the free legal aid services. So it really does tie back into the affordability or lack of that in this region, because there's that group of people that might use this bot, Bailey B, is also the group that is struggling to afford the cost of living here in the region.
Mm-hmm. If you're just joining us on Florida Matters Live and Local, we're talking with Gabriella Paul with WSF. She covers housing and affordability issues and much more for WSF, talking about the State of the Region report and what that says about how fast we're growing. If you think we're growing too fast, maybe you've got some concerns about it, some of the challenges, maybe pressures on the road you're seeing, or the cost of living, give us a call, 813-755-6562, or you can reach out to us on email as well, FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. So let me just change gears for a moment. So tomorrow on the radio and online, listeners can hear your story about a church in Riverview that's built some affordable housing. It is the second church in Hillsborough County to do this. Are we going to hear more of this? Are we going to see more of this throughout the state?
I think so. So, this is, beyond AI. This is now into the housing space. This is an example of how the Tampa Bay region is really quite open-minded in terms of creative solutions to affordability. So in this case, we are seeing, yes, a church in Riverview, that was the Mount Zion Methodist Episcopal Church, has built 75 affordable housing units for seniors, and they just celebrated the opening of that apartment on Tuesday. That's connected to some laws that Florida lawmakers passed last year called YIGBY. That's Yes in God's Backyard.
Right.
And essentially,
kind of like YIMBY or NIMBY.
Yes. Yeah. I had to make sure I didn't say, the other acronym. But it basically makes it easier for faith-based organizations to build affordable housing. And so this case in Riverview is actually the second housing project of its kind in Hillsborough County like this, but it basically eases zoning restrictions, some of that red tape that would keep a church or another place of worship from either selling their land to like a public housing authority or building something in the back or renovating it, and while they're at it, creating some affordable housing.
And it's something that a lot of churches are perking their ears up and saying, hey, we might be interested in this.
I think so, and I think it's also built on the momentum that we saw after the Live Local Act, which was passed 2 years ago, that also eased affordable housing construction restrictions kind of more generally. So this is in kind of extension of that. In the future, I talked to Tampa Housing Authority leader Leroy Moore. He says that he could see this growing into maybe the synagogue space and mosques. I mean, right now that is allowed, but we're seeing churches, particularly in Tampa, taking advantage of this the most. But it's just it's one of many examples of how Tampa is getting a little bit more creative with how to add density, meaning more housing units in a specific area without having to acquire more land, which is just really key here because we're having that population growth. So we're not like the middle of the state where we can, purchase big swaths of land and put up tons of houses, which we certainly are seeing, in the outskirts of our metro. And you take the Pascos, you take the Hardy, the Highlands counties, but here in the Tampa metro, the real puzzle is how do we fit more people affordably on less land?
Yeah. In fact, let's just take a listen to a little bit of sound from Tampa Housing Authority's Leroy Moore. This is him at the ribbon cutting yesterday.
Every little bit helps. When you've got the kind of demand for affordable housing, and you've got such a very low supply of affordable housing. Every tool in the toolbox need to be there because at some point, you might have a use for it.
All right, so speaking of backyards, last time you were on Florida Matters, we talked about ADUs, accessory dwelling units that go by the kind of more folksy term granny flats as well.
Mm-hmm.
People can add to their existing homes for some extra income or for family like in-laws. So what does that sort of, plus the yes in God's backyard law, say about how Florida is approaching housing and how Tampa Bay is kind of looking at this holistically?
Yeah, that kind of continues to prove my case here of, the fact that Florida and Tampa in general are getting creative about how to add that density. So these ADUs are another way of, you've got the same plot of land, it's zoned the same, but then you have an extra unit that can be rented out, typically at a lower rate because it's smaller and it's pre-existing. So between ADUs, between faith groups, really being incentivized to either sell their land or build affordable housing on that land. It's adding more options to renters, and it's adding to our affordable housing supply, which is really the key here to solving the housing crisis.
And when you look at the people who are still flooding into Tampa Bay despite these challenges, like who are they and what kind of, what sort of jobs are they doing? How are they kind of experiencing the squeeze on wages and cost of housing?
Yeah, I mean, to kind of circle back to where we started here, at the State of the Region, they really had a lot of data on this, and something that connects, AI and population growth and housing is that the people who are moving here in general, they've found have a higher net wealth. And so that means that these are people often with higher earning degrees. They're very talented, meaning that they're looking for high earning jobs. Now, if the jobs are keeping pace with that is another question. But these folks also need somewhere to live. There's been connections made that, a lot of our influx of people moving here are also, maybe pushing the demand a little bit higher for higher cost living. So that creates issues for folks who have maybe lived and worked here in Tampa for a long time and in Florida, who are experiencing the opposite problem where their wages aren't keeping pace with the expenses that are cropping up here.
Mm-hmm. In the last 30 seconds or so, I mean, from your reporting, do you get a sense that leaders know what it's going to take to make the region more affordable?
I get a sense that they know, and we've looked at other places that have grown at the pace that Tampa has and learned some lessons from them. But I think policymakers are thinking about making sure our infrastructure and our transportation and our affordability keeps pace with our growth.
Yeah, transportation is very key too. We can talk more about that next time. Gabriella Paul covers housing and affordability issues for WUSF. We've been talking about the latest State of the Region data, AI and housing. Thank you so much, Gabby.
Thank you.
And the State of the Region is put out by the USF Mooma College of Business and the Tampa Bay Partnership. To listen to the conversation we had yesterday with leaders of those organizations, you can visit WUSF.org. And coming up next time on Florida Matters Live and Local, rev your engines. We're going to talk about IndyCar. It's taken over the streets of St. Pete. We'll talk with an up-and-coming Tampa Bay driver who is competing in this weekend's Grand Prix. You can tune in tomorrow at noon. That is our show for today. Our producers Douglas Soul and... excuse me, I'm getting a little turned around here. Our producers, Amelie Horace and Quincy Walters. Our executive producer is Grayson Doctor. Our engineers are Jackson Harp and Gio Garvin. And Jackson composed the theme music. Natalie Jaron handled the video today. You can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and watch on WSF's YouTube channel. I'm Matthew Petty. Thank you so much for being with us, and we'll see you tomorrow.